So let's see here. Let's get our. Bear with me here while I get the microphone set. Huh. Bear with me, folks. Just trying to get this thing set up. I'm an amateur. There we go. Hoping I can be heard. I'm being heard right now. Well, hey there, YouTube world. This is Bill Schwab, and I'm coming to you live from the Photostock studio here in northern Michigan. And this is our fifth live version, I think, fifth week, which is pretty amazing because here we are, nearly April, and as you can see, it's still snowing outside. So I had about another inch last night, and it's getting really old. But at least it's pretty, right? So anyway, I hope everybody's okay out there, and I hope some people check in. Looks like there might be a couple of people here. Hey, Steven, how are you doing? Good, I'm glad you can hear me. See if more people show up here, but I don't really have anything big planned for today, just a little bit of another gathering, and you know, could talk about a few things. I just like to see what other people are up to, if they chime in or not. I don't know if people have seen or not, but I finally released the Gum Over Platinum video that I'd been working on. And I think it turned out pretty well. I've been through it a few times just to make sure there's no mistakes, no gaps. I think it's pretty thorough, and it seems to be getting response, a really good response so far. I think that it's been out there 2 days now, and I've had over 600 views on it. So I really appreciate that. Any of you that have watched it already, and if you haven't, have a look if you're interested in that kind of thing. It's kind of long, it's nearly an hour long, and then with the addendum videos, it's quite long, but you know, so far so good. I've been getting some nice comments on it. Some nice people have written me privately about it and asked a few questions, but so far I don't think I've left any big gaps or anything like that. Hi Bob, how are you doing? Hey Jerry, how you doing? And Daryl, good. Hey, good to see you all. And James, wow, this is great. Thanks for all checking in. Fargo, yeah. I don't know, James. I'm hoping you're having better weather than me. If you can see out the window here, we've been getting a little bit of snow every night still, which is, you know, I mean, it's not uncharacteristic for northern Michigan at this time of the year, but we were getting a thaw there for a few days, and it seemed like this was going to be it, you know, but now we're back to frozen time. So, I don't know. It's like living in a weird little snow globe up here. You never really know what's going to happen. We're right up here at the tip of the mitten, and, you know, sometimes it's beautiful here and horrible everywhere else, and sometimes it's gorgeous everywhere else and it's horrible here. Thanks, Bob. I'm glad you liked the video. You know, I know it's a lot to do. You know, I mean, it's not as involved as doing wet plate, of course, or anything like that, but it's still pretty involved. And you know, Jerry's on here. I think Jerry's just to embark on his first gum layers solo at home. So we'll see how that all goes. Yeah. Oh, cool, Daryl. Yeah. You know, anybody that wants to chime in about their own work and what they're doing, or if you want to throw up your own URL or something like that, just so that people can see who's who. I mean, what I'm really liking about this, the YouTube right now, is that, you know, I have a normal group of people that normally follow along, and I'm forever grateful for that group. And they've been pretty loyal for many years now, but it's been hard to kind of meet new people and draw new people in, and YouTube has really been helpful with that. And so it's really cool to have some new folks in there. You know, not saying, Jerry, that you're old or anything like that, but you know, it's really nice to have new people in on board with this. The way I feel about all this stuff is the more the merrier. You know, I mean, I've never been real proprietary about what I know, because there's been a lot of people out there that have really helped me out along the way. So yeah, I mean, it's great to just get more people doing this, and the more people that are doing it, the more of us that are figuring out new ways to do things, which helps everybody in the long run. So yeah, I thought you were going to do it this weekend too, Jerry. You just got to jump in, man. It's probably just a matter of time, because it's not a tough thing. As you know, you've done it. So yeah, but I'm really interested to see what you end up doing with that. Yeah, so, you know, I mean, all of you, if you want to just chime in, like the type of work that you do, that kind of thing. I mean, as you know, I tend to be kind of a landscape shooter, but I don't really feel, you know, I mean, that's what kind of makes me feel more comfortable. But I actually, you know, my cityscapes and things that I used to do were landscapes, but, you know, I've done a lot of street photography in my life, and a lot of different things that I'm kind of working on in the background right now that don't really fit in with kind of what people think that I do. So, but it's always fun to do something different to shake it up a bit. So, you know, anybody give me an idea what you're doing out there, or like I say, if you want to plug in a URL or write me privately at some time, you know, that kind of thing. I'm always interested to find out whatever the people are doing. Oh, you know, just put in Instagram tags if you got those, that kind of thing. Because all of that lives in these chat sessions. I found out once the video is completely rendered itself, they go live right away, of course, and then as soon as we're done, they're still there to view. But what happens then is that they get rendered through YouTube, and they get kind of completed, and when they're completed, it takes a little while. Sometimes it seems to have taken 24 hours or so. Even the gum over one that I've done, I noticed today that it's still rendering the 4K version of it. So, I mean, it was a big file. It was 17 gigabytes, I think, when I finished that whole segment, and so it takes quite a bit of time to render them. But once they're done, as my point is that the original chat goes in there, and it kind of goes along with the original timing. So I'm sorry that I don't answer things by typing out. It's easier to do it here. And anybody watching later can just kind of realize the kind of things I'm answering. I'll try to, if a question comes through, I'll try to reiterate the question beforehand. See, Bob, I got you cyanotypes for a while and only recently started platinum and palladium. Your series on PP got me started. Good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, you know, landscapes and wildlife work really well with platinum and palladium anyway, so that's kind of my thing too. So yeah, that's good. It's good to hear. It's nice to hear that that helped getting you going too. You know, I'm gonna go back. I haven't looked at that in a while. I noticed that thing's got a lot of views now, so I'm gonna go back at some point and rewatch it, make sure I'm not you know, missing something in there, because I might redo some of these, or at least do appendixes to them, like I've done to the digital negative one. As a matter of fact, on the digital negative one, that's kind of my next thing as I'm working on the, you know, some of you have had some issues because Richard Boatwell has a new version of the program out, and it's virtually the same, but it has slightly different interface, and it gets a little confusing for some people. So my plan is to redo that segment of that, so it'll be an appendix. And excuse me, what I'll do once it's done is I'll go back to the original one, and I'll put a tag in there that says that, you know, there's an updated version of this one that you can go see. I don't want to take it away because a lot of people are referring to it. It's amazing how many people have been watching that series. You know, and that's cool. Again, more the merrier. Let's see. Shallow depth of field portraits for Daryl. Yeah, I have a few old brass lenses. Oh, good. So yeah, you know, I mean, you're talking about, I'll read your, I'm doing more shallow depth field portraits. I have a few old brass lenses for my 8x10 and some new 2.5 lenses for my 4x5. I've been doing f/64 landscape for years, doing something new. I'm all for that. You know, Daryl, and everybody else, you know, that's kind of how a lot of us began. You know, the f/64 thing was a big deal for me, especially in college, you know, I mean, I kind of aspired to other people as well, you know, I mean, I had people on the side that I liked because I liked that shallow depth of focus, and I liked, one of the things that I always noticed, and you know, nothing against those grand landscapes because I love them, you know, and I would take an Ansel Adams in my collection in a minute, you know, so I'm not disparaging any of that f/64 stuff, but, you know, it was in college, you know, when I was watching these things and I really liked them and everything was just perfectly sharp from corner to corner all the time. And, you know, I even had friends in school and one of them, very good friend, you know, and he a marvelous photographer as well. But I won't mention him because of what I'm going to say here is like, he would not go out, like if it was the least bit windy of a day or anything like that, he would not go photographing because he photographed large format and his work is just extremely beautiful. But any motion was not good, you know, and also not just with that photography, but with a lot of other people that I knew, that's like everything had to be in focus from, you know, in front of your nose out to the distance. And, you know, I realized that, you know, we don't see that way, you know, I mean, you know, unless you're in some altered consciousness and your eyes are really, really pinpricks or something like that, and you're seeing like everything like that. You don't see life like that. You don't see everything in perfect crystal focus. So I really do like the idea of using old lenses and using, you know, I mean, even like, you don't even have to use an old lens, you know, you can get a lens baby, something like that, and just play around with things and play around with different ways of seeing things, and it really helps a lot. So it's cool to hear that you're doing that, you know, I mean, I just really like that, you know, I mean, I now, when I'm shooting, especially with my field cameras or any of my large format cameras, I'm almost always wide open now, you know, I mean, a lot of that, when I'm using those cameras now, I'm shooting wet plate as well, and so kind of got to be wide open, but I really just love that I love seeing the way that I see. I mean, I'm looking out the window right now that you can't see, but you know, there's the poles of my porch and I focus on those and everything goes off out of focus, you know, and so that's just always the way that I look to see. So I started looking to other photographers back then, you know, and you know, I centered kind of on this guy, Alan McQueenie, if Alan ever sees this, you know, but Alan was wonderful, and I saw this, these group of pictures that he had done with the Irish Travelers back, this was probably 1980 in Aperture magazine, and they were just incredible because the focus was, you know, I mean, there'd be people here that were in focus, but people back here that were ghost-like and things, and I just saw these things that I just loved, and so I started to kind of gravitate more to those kind of things, and so it's just, like you say, it's nice to really shake it up a bit and get a little, you know, just get a little wild with your work if you can, you know, just to see what fits you, you know, I mean, that's something as a photographer that we do, is we kind of aspire to one thing that we see that we really like, but we never really try out other things to see how they fit, and, you know, I love doing that. That's why I do all these different processes and different cameras and stuff. So anyway, I've gone on a long time with that. Hey, Alan, how are you doing? Oh, it's good to see you too. Glad to finally catch you live. Question, when mixing your ferric oxalate solution, do you store the 1% oxalic acid mixture or toss and mix fresh for each FO batch? You know, I don't, you know, this is me personally. I don't put a lot of oxalic acid into I mean, I'll put a couple of grains in there when I first mix it up, not a whole lot, and I don't do it fresh each time. I'll just leave it in the bottle and kind of forget about it. So I hope that helps, but I'm not the be-all and end-all on that, and I'll ask some more people on that, or I'll try to do a little bit more research on that, but you know, my ferric oxalate is, you know, you've probably heard me say before, I'm kind of a creature of habit, and so I I kind of go one way and I stick with one way, and that's kind of the way I do it. So, I mean, the amount of oxalic acid that I put in my ferric oxalate solution when I'm mixing it up is really, almost, immeasurable on a scale. I'll just put in just like a few grains of it because I'm mixing only up 25 milliliters at each time. But to answer your question, I do throw a little bit of, it's good to throw a little bit of oxalic acid around when you're working the process. Sometimes, I was talking with somebody the other day that was talking about we were talking about their potassium oxalate, and this was a phone consultation that I did, and we were talking, he was having problems with Dmax, and he was linearizing his curve, and he was finding out that he was having a pretty compressed thing. He wasn't getting very blacks, which, with platinum and palladium, it's a difficult thing to get a really solid, crazy black anyway. But we were thinking that this might be a problem with humidity, but it wasn't a humidity problem. We were thinking that it might be. So anyway, I told him to check the potassium oxalate that he'd been using because he'd been using it for quite some time. And a lot of times your potassium oxalate will get more alkaline as you go along. So that's another thing that I was telling you, to put a pH test strip in there, check that the pH was okay. And if not, you can always put your whole PO, your potassium oxalate, back into a bigger beaker and mix some more oxalic acid in there. And it'll fizz like it normally does, and you gotta stir it up and stuff, and don't be breathing in the fizz or anything like that. But it brings down it brings the pH down again, and therefore makes it a little more punchy with the acid. And very often I've noticed that that's happened with my own potassium oxalate that's a little older. It'll start to get more alkaline. You'll notice it in the color of it. It'll start to go from a little bit greenish yellow, and it'll start kind of shifting over to the red or brownish red kind of spectrum. And when it's doing that, it's starting to get alkaline, and it's time to start putting a little bit of oxalic acid in there. Or just mixing up a completely new batch if you have it. But there's really not that much need to do that. You can keep a batch of potassium oxalate going for quite a while. Anyway, let's see here. I'm going to go back here. Sorry, I hit something here. It's good to hear. That's a good question, though. Oh, my apologies. Yeah. Well, okay. Sorry. You're bad. That's all right, Alan. It's not bad because a lot of people do add oxalic acid to their ferric oxalate when they're mixing it. So that wasn't wasted breath there at all. And my point is to keep it a little bit more acidic. Now, back to my polysorbate and my tween. The 1% oxalic acid mixture or Tawson mix. No, I don't. What I do is I keep an eye on that stuff. Keep an eye on your tween and your polysorbate because it can, I've noticed over time that it can mold a little bit. And the thicker that you use it, I use mine in like a 10 to 20% solution, that kind of thing. But that's the only time I'll toss that away. Once I've put my tween, my oxalic acid into my polysorbate, it's pretty much fine. The thing is, though, is that I print a lot, so I go through it pretty quick. So, I don't really have the benefit of having it sit around too long. But I have noticed over time that if I have taken a break, that some of that has gotten kind of cloudy, and I've kind of taken that up to being some sort of bacteria or some sort of mold growing in there, and I will dump it and remix. So, hope I answered your question correctly. Yeah, so, yeah, that's one thing I didn't get into the gum over in the gum part of, in the gum over platinum part is and that's more in that platinum series in the beginning, is that it's really important that you keep things acidic. And, the whole idea of the alkaline versus acidity kind of a thing, I know that gets tossed around a little bit. And for some people, it doesn't matter so much. And that's why workflow is something for me. Like I start to find something that works. I only work on one small thing at a time. If my whole process going through when I was developing the process in my workflow, I would find things that weren't working quite so well. But you know, it's really dangerous if you start to try to change too many things at one time. It's best to just test all the time, and it's best to just use one variable at one time that you've changed, because otherwise you really don't know where you are or what's happening. I mean, I will confess, I've been in my younger days, a very impatient kind of darkroom worker, whereas I like immediate results and I like things to happen fast. And you know, when I was first starting to learn a lot of the processes and things that I'm learning right now, I was very impatient, sometimes impetuous. There's always that person that you're teaching that thinks, you know, you'll go through a workshop. I was talking to another workshop instructor, people that teach the other day. There's always the person that, you know, you'll go through the whole workshop and you'll teach them everything. And you know, you've been through this, and I've been through this, and a lot of these people have been through these things many, many, many times. But anyway, there'll always be somebody that comes along and they'll say, well, you know, this didn't work for me and it didn't work. And I said, well, did you put in the so-and-so? And they said, well, no, I didn't do that because I didn't really think I needed that. And that's the one thing that really kind of drives you crazy, is that, you know, you've got to kind of stick to your guns on everything, and kind of, you know, stick with what people have written and what people have been teaching for years, because it is really the way it works. You know, I mean, you can't do palladium printing without ferric oxalate or without this or that. So anyway, all that aside, back to the acidity thing. You know, I mean, papers, that's a big deal. You always got people, we were talking about this in a Zoom the other night, about how people tend to blame the paper before they'll blame themselves or anything else they do. You know, they'll look and they think, well, something's wrong with the paper. And I have to admit that I've been that as well, you know. And although sometimes things do happen with different batches of papers that are made, and there are problems that do happen, it's very often, you know, you go for the simplest reason, and that simplest reason is, you know, you're doing something wrong in your process. So, but anyway, papers are a big thing. People are always trying to use different papers, but the thing about papers is papers have a specific pH as well, and a lot of the newer papers that are made out there for artists are heavily buffered because everybody is so concerned with everything being archival. And so they're be very heavily buffered, so there isn't a lot of acidity left in that paper. So what you have to do with certain papers is you have to bring that acidity back. And that's one of the videos that I have out there that you've probably seen on treating your paper with oxalic acid as well. I mean, oxalic is a great acid. You can use citric acid for different things, but oxalic acid is a really good thing. That's just like, you know, in the wet plate process where, you know, 190 proof grain alcohol is kind of the omnipresent solution in everything. It's that same way with this. So, you know, the acidity of the paper, you need to oxalic acid, put it in soak it like a 3% in those papers. You'll see it bubble a little bit and effervesce, and then it's ready. And you'll see another thing, and there's another video of mine out there that's basically treating paper, and it shows you what happens when you don't treat paper as opposed to when you do. Now, that's not to say that all papers need to be treated, and I don't want to sound like a commercial for Hahnemühle again, but Hahnemühle has made this paper, Hahnemühle Platinum Rag, that probably a lot of you have heard about and use. And, you know, at first I wasn't kind of down with it for some reason, but the more I worked with it, like anything that you work with, the more I worked with it and I was able to finesse it and find out what it likes and what it does, and the more I really started to like it as a be-all, end-all of everything. And like, you know, so-and-so mentioned doing the whole idea of doing cyanotypes and things. It works really great for a lot of different processes. There's other papers, though, that are made just specifically for that. There's Revere, there's Arches Platine, or Arches Cover, it gets known as. There's Cot 320, there's, I can't think of anybody puts them up in there. These are papers that really don't need treatment. But even so, some of them, other ones like I like to use, like Reeves BFK, or you know, that one needs a lot of treatment, you know, and depending on the batch, sometimes that paper on batch numbers, it changes, and the acidity changes of that paper. So it's, you know, these are some things that you really have to keep aware of with your papers and the whole process of acidity. And what we're talking about originally is adding acid to, or oxalic acid to our tween and polysorbate. Yeah, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go back here. Yeah, my biggest aggravation right now is my Epson P800 pizza wheel marks on my digital negatives. Hey, okay, so if you could answer me, Bob, I hope you're still there after me rambling on. What substrate are you using on your P800? Tell me that, because I had started using fix-ons because I'm cheap, you know, I mean, I'm the frugal photographer, and I loved Pictorico, which is what I use now pretty much religiously. I started using fix-ons, and I've used other ones, Ink Press. There's a few other ones though that work really well. Bob Carney told me about one, but I digress. I don't want to get off a track here. The thing is that the fix-ons, I found out that it was inexpensive, you know, $30 for 100 sheets. You can't beat that. But the problem being with that was I'm suspect that the coating on it that you print on, all of these pieces, they're all plastic it's different plastics that they're putting coatings on that accept the inks. And my theory is on the fix-ons is that it's a thinner, although it works great, believe me. And if I use the fix-ons on my 9800 behind me, it works fantastic because that has a vacuum system and there's no wheels touching your stuff. But anyway, my theory is that the fix-ons is a little thin, and that for some reason the pizza wheels happen a little bit more on that. Because what I did find out is when I went back over to my the OHP from Pictorico, I stopped having that problem. So, you know, it might be a case of you get what you pay for. I'm not really sure. So let me see what you say here, Bob. Pictorico Ultra? Shit, so there you go. Okay, so, excuse my language. I don't really know, you know, I mean, the pizza wheel thing is a problem. Now, what some people have done is gone on the P800 where you can print flat media on there as well, thicker media. You know, I'm pointing over here because that's where my P800 is. You know, when you do the flats, and anyway, people have told me, and I've not had success with it yet because I've not really tried in earnest. If you take a piece of double weight archival, or just a piece of double weight paper of some sort, or a board of some sort, and back your OHP on top of that, and put it in the flat, and it turns it on and it sucks it in there, and then it prints it that way. That way it doesn't use the pizza wheels, and that's one way that people using the P800 and the P600 have been getting away from any pizza wheel problems. But man, Bob, I'm really sorry to hear that. Now, when you're talking about the Pictorica Ultra, I have to look. You know, I use the Ultra Premium. Don't use the... I would have to go look and see because my brain's just fried right now. The stuff that sounds like it would be better is never the better one. Just the lower grade Pictorica is always the one I go for. That being because the Ultra stuff is... I better be careful about what I'm saying here because I don't want to give you bad information, but there's a difference in the fog base. You know, here's a sheet of this stuff here right now, and you can tell it's just like film. There's always the film fog. You know, it's not perfectly clear stuff. So that film fog makes a difference in your image and in your testing and everything like that. So the one I think it's Ultra Premium, or I better go look. Yeah, I'll go off camera here for a second and look and see what I'm talking about. I'm just a little bit, you can probably still hear me. Yeah, the Ultra Premium there, and we've got the... Yeah, the Ultra, that's it. I think it's, you know, maybe somebody here can correct me on this, but maybe, I think it's the Ultra, because I have both kinds here, but I think it's just the Premium OHP is the one you want. The Ultra Premium actually has a little bit more fog in the base. And I find that it's really, really hard sometimes to get the best black that I can get out of my work when I'm using that. The other thing is that when you're building curves, it's very important that if you start building your curves with the Ultra Premium or the Ultra stuff, that you do that all the way through. Then if you're going to make another curve and use the other one, those of you that are very precise about your stuff will notice a difference in there because of that extra film-based fog. Now, once again, let me go over there and grab a sheet, and I want to see if I can see. A lot of this are sheets that were sent to me Yeah, there we go. That were sent to me by somebody who had kind of gotten out of the process and wanted to do it. So this is a big sheet of the Ultra Premium. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a slightly thicker fog film base to it. Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So anyway, be careful with that stuff and make sure that you are, you know, that you're building a curve and that you're using the same stuff all the time is what I'm saying. But it's my experience that I get a little less blacks in that. I mean, there was a period there where I was printing a project and I kind of shifted in the middle of the project and all of a sudden everything was looking so much better to me and I kind of figured out that that was what it was. And then I consulted with a couple of other people that I know about it and they told me the same thing. So, consider that. Let's see. One more question, if you don't mind. I use my potassium oxalate developer, yeah, there you go, at 110 and rinse in warm water before the clearing baths. Is it okay to run the clearing baths at room temperature or should I warm them? No. Room temperature is fine. Don't worry about that. The heating of your potassium oxalate is more for the benefit of the color of things. I mean, I'm sure you notice that things go a lot more red when you're going at 110 degrees. Things get a little bit more reddish and rosy, that kind of thing. So yeah, but yeah, don't worry about everything else. And as a matter of fact, I mean, it's kind of good to keep, I mean, that kind of heat in the paper, it also does a little bit to the paper too. You know, it can soften up your sizing, all those kind of things. So, you know, I mean, 110 degrees is fine to throw it into for the development and your coloring and things like that. But yeah, it's probably best to go back into cooler, more room temperature clearing baths when you do that. Let's see. Yeah, that's what they say, Alan. I agree with that without the smearing thing. I don't know, you know, I mean, the smearing never really becomes a problem unless I'm really going heavy on my ink density. You know, that's one of the things in working out Richard's programs, anybody that's done that and you've gone through the black density test, it goes through different ink densities where it's, you know, and the really white areas at the very end where it's really kicking a lot of that black ink in there, you'll get that out of your printer and it's still a puddle. And you got to really be careful because that's going to smear for the next 10-15 minutes unless you dry it carefully. And even if you blow a blow dryer on it, that puddle will start to blow around and smear. So yeah, I get it, and yeah, I understand that and that's the reason that it does, is that it's got a little bit thicker coating on it, I think. There's a little bit thicker coating that you print on that's put on there, and that's why there's a little bit more film-based fog to it. So anyway, yeah. Hey Barry, how you doing? Hi Bill, I use Permajet digital transfer film here in the UK. Just as good as Pictorico, but base fog is less and D-Max and the blacks is higher. I've heard about this and I've looked around here and I haven't found any Permajet in this country. I might try that. Cool. Yeah, see, and that's the thing, is that all that fog adds a little bit to that you know, that problem with D-Max, and because we're working with a program that, a process that is, you know, so delicate anyway, that can make a big difference. And yeah, I'll try that Permajet. The other thing is that I'll try to figure it out before next week. I'll talk to Bob Carney. I was in, and also I'll talk to Clay Harmon because he told me of another one. They're buying this stuff in rolls, and you know, in big rolls for their large wide format printers like behind me. So I don't know about buying it in sheets, but there's two different kinds that they're using that they're really swearing by and really liking. And not only in that it is good quality, but that it's, you know, more inexpensive. So I'll dig into that a little bit more and see if I can get more information for next week. Permajet, okay. I'll look that up. And everybody here, you can look that up too. I mean, I'm not going to take a note on this right now because it'll be in the dialogue later here. Yeah. Well, so this brings me to the next thing. If anybody's got any, I was going to talk a little bit about the video that was out, that just came out. You know, that went pretty cool, and I really am glad that there's getting a good response to that. And but also, you know, there's other stuff I've been working on here that, you know, I think people are going to think I'm crazy for, because you know, I think that, I get kind of known as being this guy, this alternative process now and film guy, largely analog, and I know that Photostock, the festival, one of the things that kind of, I don't know, it always kind of bothers me about it is that we sort of get put into that kind of pigeonhole. And when I really don't, although I love doing this stuff and I love working with alternative processes and I love doing what we're all talking about here, I like modern stuff too, back to Ansel Adams, I can almost guarantee you from everybody that I know that knew him and worked with him that if he was around today, he'd be playing with all this stuff as much as anybody. But the thing that I've been digging into, and I mentioned it a couple of my live things back, is I've been trying to study the whole NFT world and the NFT market, and I know that's kind of like tends to be, when I mention it to certain people, some of them are like, yeah, it's pretty interesting, and other people are like dead, like what the hell are you even thinking about? But there's a part of me though that thinks that I got to look at this. It's an art space, it's a new space for art in a way. I know not a lot of people are looking at it that way. It tends to be looked at more of a thing of money right now, and I do notice from a lot of the study that I've been doing that there's about 1% of the people I'm looking at out there that are interested in the work as art, and the collectors that are collecting it that I've kind of had some contact with. But 99% of them are interested in making money in the long run and just investing and moving these things on. And that's a whole other aspect of this, this part of NFT, which I'm not really sure. But not to look like I'm going off the deep end or anything, but I was mentioning earlier that I have several different projects that I have been working on that are kind of outside of the realm of what I'm normally known for. It's not web play, it's not Palladium, it's not pristine landscapes, it's not that kind of thing, which is a big part of my work. But I also do these other things that make me happy, and it makes me fun. It's fun for me to do, and I don't really have an outlet for them so much. And so I started looking at this NFT market and started looking at other people. I don't know many of you that know about certain people that are out there that are shooting Instagram, but there's this guy called Drifter Shoots, and he got onto my radar because he photographed, he climbed up on top of the Mackinac Bridge a year ago and made these very incredible photographs. He spent the night up there. And not only did I think at first that it was some sort of doctorate, I was kind of jealous. It was like, man, I live 15 miles away. I've always wanted to go up there. How did you do this? And it turned out it was a guerrilla thing, and he ended up getting in a lot of trouble, and he's still going through a lot of trouble. But he's done this in many cities, done these photographs from places where he has trespassed to go, but they're just amazing kind of things. And he's been dealing in the NFT market, so he was one of the people that I started thinking, well, I'll have a look at that. And so anyway, that's what I'm doing now. I'm looking at it, and not to shock people, but I think I'm going to mint my first NFT. I'm kind of working my way up to it right now, but basically, like everything else, I've been studying. I've been really getting a lot of information on it, and maybe we'll talk more about that later at some time. Let's see, Barry, you use a Canon printer and measure with a densitometer and have done so many tests. My hair has gone gray, but I am at the point where I have super predictable negatives. That's really good, Barry, and that's good to hear because Canon's a whole different baby, when I'm talking about Richard Boatwell's program and QTR and all those things, I'm talking about specifically Epson printers, it's not for use with Canon, and unfortunately, I don't have any experience with them. Bob does, Cardi up in Toronto, they've worked with one. I think they're back to using an Epson. But yeah, that's good that you've got that down. Maybe if anybody's interested in going Barry's way, maybe you can share credentials or share contact information and maybe give people some information on how you've done. Now you're using a densitometer, I'm assuming, so you're shining light through. You're not using reflective back off your prints that you're making. You're actually working with the negative itself as far as reading your densitometer. Yeah, NFTs, Alan. Yeah. Okay, so here, Alan says, take the elevator up to the tower. Yeah, sometime I'm going to try to finagle my way up to the top of that thing. Sometime before I die, and I'm too old to crunch myself down into that little elevator that's supposedly in there. But this guy Drifter Shoots, I can't think of his name right now, but he actually did it walking up. He walked up it. And apparently what happened was, from talking to people around here is that they have sensors along there that sense if something's going by. Some guy working that night saw the sensor go off, but thought, you know, what could that possibly be? You know, I guess it was kind of a cold night, and anyway, so he just ignored it. And this guy made it all the way up to the top, spent the night up there, did his thing, came down, nobody noticed it. Then he went down to Detroit and he did the same thing on the Ambassador Bridge, of which he's got a really cool shot. Any of you that, just look up drifter shoots on Instagram, or if you're on OpenSea and you're looking at people's NFTs, look him up there. He's got some pretty incredible stuff. Yeah, but Alan, the funny thing, you say it makes your head hurt. Oh, man. You know, back in the early days of the internet, you know, I've said this before. I went to Photostock for a thing, I went to Woodstock, 94 for an assignment. And while I was there, I was assigned to photograph for Philips Technology, and I was doing a lot of things in the technology tents, and I discovered the web. And I had an email address, but I discovered the web there. And what they would do is they were taking pictures of you. You could blog out a thing like, "Hi Mom, I'm having a great time at Woodstock," and they would put your picture up and it would go out live on the World Wide Web. And I'd never seen it before, and that was my first chance. I got home and I just, boom, dove into it. I got an FTP site first, and then I ended up getting a www site, a World Wide Web site, and I got my first URL, and you know, I really dove in. But at that time, a lot of my business associates and things, I was a commercial photographer doing a lot of commercial work, a lot of my business associates who I talked to about trying to, you know, transmit them some photographs rather than having to run to FedEx or doing whatever, and they all just said, I mean, one of them very specifically, I remember them telling me, "Why are you wasting your time with that? You know, why are you wasting your time with that?" Within a year, everybody's truck had www on it, and you know where we are now. You're here. So that's how I feel about this NFT market. You know, it's like I don't want to just discount it because it's this new world, and I don't understand the new world, and I'm trying to understand the new world. But as far as making my head hurt, back in those early days when I first started building websites, my brain hurt. My head hurt so bad because I was learning HTML, and in those days you didn't have programs that built pages for you. You built them by writing the code. And I had to learn the code, and what made, it was just, for a long time, I was just almost sleepless. My brain hurt. I was in almost a feverish state. Well, I haven't felt that feeling too often unless I'm really on to something new that I'm really getting into, like wet plate or any of these different processes that I've delved into. I'm feeling that same feeling from this NFT search, you know. I mean, I'm learning a lot about it, and I'm trying to make my head wrap in a different way, and, you know. So what's helped me a lot was to start to look at it basically like the business I've been in for the last, 20, 25 years, as a photographer being handled by galleries, and the gallery structure and the gallery system and the way that people purchase images and collect images and editions and all that kind of thing. So as soon as I wrapped my mind and started thinking about these digital files in the way that I think about just my prints that I deal with collectors or with galleries, it started to make a lot more sense, I still can't understand how much the value of owning that digital file is, but I understand the idea of sharing your space in an art space that's different. We all do that because we do it on Instagram, we do it on Facebook, we do it here on YouTube, we do it everywhere. We're sharing our work through this reflective, not reflective, this radiative light kind of source of tablets and things, and we're not looking at prints so much anymore. So we're already kind of wrapping our minds around that, but as far as like owning the image that everybody else can see, that's kind of strange. But I do understand when I wrap my mind around it in such a way as I do with my work. I mean, when I'm doing, I'm pointing over here because there's a lot of prints hanging around that I'm working on right now. And when I'm working on all of these prints, each one of them is kind of unique, or even if I'm doing an edition of them, unlike silver printing or digital printing where you're printing something exactly the same every time and doing an edition, even each individual print here is kind of unique and has its own value in a way to maybe somebody or to me. And so now I can kind of see that in the digital realm, I can understand. Here's what's crazy about it, is I've even been looking at this stuff long enough that now I've started to look at some other photographers' work that I've discovered through NFTs because, you're not necessarily a big person in the NFT world if you are in the print world, you know what I mean? So I've started looking at some alternative people and enjoying it and thinking, if I had, $200 of Ethereum, I might buy that and put it into my collection. Because, from the investment point of view, it's crazy what's happened out there with them. And I know it's got to be a balloon maybe that's going to pop at some point, but I'm not a person of means, so I'm not going to be putting a whole lot of money into it. But what you are doing to me, in the way that I'm starting to understand this, in creating an NFT and minting it onto the blockchain for forever, as long as there's electricity and they keep this whole thing going, you have created something that's unique, and depending on what people see in the value of it, it has value to someone, and it has value that could grow based upon what people see. I would say the same as any other kind of blockchain created Ethereum, any kind of other blockchain created cryptocurrency. It's basically you're creating your own. You're not minting. You're not going on not mining. You're not going on the internet with a Bitcoin miner and trying to use all kinds of power and things to make a penny a day or something like that. You're actually creating something that you put out on that blockchain that is something that could potentially have value. So anyway, I'm still trying to grok this whole thing, or trying to wrap my mind around the whole thing. But anyway, you can maybe expect something like this from me in the future. I mean, I know I'm not the first person, believe me, to do this. Like back in the day when the internet was kind of new and I was early website kind of thing. I know that the ship has kind of sailed on a lot of this, but I still feel that I need to understand it in some way. And anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So anyway, let's see here. Slow down on the print speed. You may have a high humidity and, so you were talking to other people. Let's see, if he's giving me a headache, yeah. I linked to the specs of the pictorial film. Ultra is 0.5 mils thicker than OHP, possibly the difference with pizza wheel marking. It's possible. I mean, I think that all of these machines are a little bit different too, because certain people have problems with theirs that I don't have with mine, and vice versa, so. Alan Huntley, yeah, my career is in IT, and my internet experience goes back before the World Wide Web. You had to know the hops to get your, yeah. It was fun, wasn't it? I mean, it was fun to be on the internet and think, oh, I'm connected to Colorado. And I was on the merit system, so it was all through colleges around here, and probably with you too, but it was really interesting because the hops were interesting. I had a lot of fun with the games in the early days, anyway. This is great. Oh, I'm glad you guys are sharing information out here. Yeah, that's a good idea, Daryl. I've done that too, where slowed down the print speed, and that could be a problem with it too. I know that people have said that. Unfortunately, when you get down into those things, some people don't really have that. It's just part of this whole process that we've been doing for so long here that, everything has been such a learning curve. You know what I mean? Here I am, I'm 62 years old, and I've been playing around with this stuff for a long time, as have most of you. And just think about how much we've stretched our brains. It's an interesting world where everything is so new that there's not, you just can't go to the library, and get a book and find out how to do it. You've got to find it out through common knowledge and people sharing knowledge and information, just like we do with photographics here, and like the way that we used to do on the different, or probably still do on the same forums and things like that. Those things, say what you will about the internet, but it really, really put the fire under our business here, or under the business of photography. And when I say business, I just mean the hobby, the business, whatever it is, your vocation, your avocation. It really lit a fire under it because it gave us the chance to communicate and all share our different things, just like we're doing here right now. Yeah, well, this is cool. I really like this. I'm glad that people are sharing things here too, I don't really, I kind of went off on my little NFT rant there, I am going to be doing that. Now, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to be recording all of this, and I've actually been recording part of my knowledge of it in a video to go up on YouTube anyway. So once I finally do it, I think that what I'm going to do is when I first mint my first image, I think I'm going to take you all along for the ride by doing a video of it. And we'll see what happens, I mean, it could be nothing. However, I have read a few things that are pretty promising and pretty interesting from people that I wouldn't normally think would be, interested in it. Oh. Okay, well, hey, let's see, what time are we at here? We're getting a little bit up on 2. I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes. Anybody got anything else they want to talk about? It's really nice that you're all here. 15 viewers, it's telling me on my stats right now. This whole YouTube thing is really crazy. Cool, Daryl. Yeah, I'll watch for it. I'll let everybody know. One of the things that I'm having, I'm kind of, a couple years with this YouTube thing as far as being in earnest. And prior to that, I was just putting stuff up. I didn't really know how any of this worked at all. One of the things I'm having problems with is I just don't know how to get, messages out to people, that kind of thing, and I try on the Facebook, I put a message out that I was going to be on Facebook, and what I'll do is I'll start expanding that to Twitter, just to get a few more people that are interested. But any of you that might know anybody that's interested in what we do, and which could be anything, I mean, they don't have to be interested in platinum printing, they could be interested in anything at all, but anybody that you think might want to, do this, just let them know. And, I like this. I like this space here, and I like talking to people like this. Yeah, Alan, I'm sorry I'm laughing at it, but he said to avoid pizza wheel marks, I just keep my images small enough to avoid them marking the ink area. Yeah, oh, Photostock. Yeah, I'll talk about Photostock, Jerry. Thanks for mentioning that. That's good, Alan. That might be, I like printing small as well. Okay, Paul, this is a good question. Everybody, Paul has asked me a question. Hi, Bill. Any issues using the new P900 Epson for digital negs with the RIP you suggest? The only issue that I know of so far was that Richard discovered with it that the inks are slightly less blocking in the UV category. Now, I have not delved into the 900s yet. I'm going to be getting one here. Because I really need to keep current with this stuff to keep everybody else current. But what I've heard is that just the ink density level is the key to that. And then when Richard redid his program that he was using, the DN program, he allowed differences for that. There's a different setting in there for the 900. So basically, as I understand it, they just kick up the ink density a little bit, which means they lay the ink a little heavier on there. Other than that, I don't know of any issues. I know that there was not the issue that we were all fearing with Epson locking out basically QTR and not being allowed the quad tone RIP to work with it. Now, it does have 2 extra inks, of course, right? But as I understand it, Roy Harrington in QTR has, the new version will support the 900. It just shuts off the 2 other ink cartridges, inks. It basically continues on the same way it always has by shutting off those other two ink nozzles. So, long answer to your short question, I'm not hearing any problems, and people are buying them and they are using them. They're just having to kick up the ink density a little bit more. But I'll know more when I get one. And, I'm a little afraid of that because I have the 800. I think they ran the P600 and the 800 out way too quick. They were really nice printers, and they just seem to come and go on the market so fast. So I know that secondary market, they have some value now, so keep an eye out for one if you want. But, again, P900 I think is fine. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Paul, if you've got one yet or if you're going to get one, but yeah, I do know people have gotten them and they're doing it okay. The only thing I also don't like about the fact with the 900 is they've made the ink cartridges a little bit smaller, right? And they have to because there's 10 inks now and they have to make a little smaller. But anyway, that's just one of those things. But I am going to get one. Yeah. Okay, so Photostock. Jerry was talking about Photostock, and I know I've talked about this in the past, but Photostock is going to open. God, I got to get going on this because I'm in the midst of changing over my server right now, which is nuts. But I might have to postpone the actual official Photostock start of April 1st as far as the registrations go, the official registrations. But yeah, anyway, Photostock is coming up June 24th to 26th here in northern Michigan, very close to where I live right now in Cross Village. I'm working on things as we speak, and I think it's going to be a good time this year. I put out pre-registrations. If you go to photostockfest.com and pre-register there, that will put you on the list for the email blast. Now, I've already sent out one email blast, but there wasn't any real great information in there that I won't put in the next one. But the thing was, that I wanted to say is that I had almost 100 pre-registrations, which I've never had before. You know, we'll end up getting 100 or so people at the event, basically through the event, with people helping me and people coming at the last minute, that kind of thing. But I've never had this many pre-registrations, which is pretty interesting. Now, that won't all translate into people actually coming and paying the registration fee, but it does let me know that there's people interested in people who want to travel this year. Now, Photostock is something that I've had for a long time. 2006 was the first one. Jerry, who's on here, was at the very first one. But it's an event I have every year for photographers. People come from all over the world, so I know those of you that are in the UK or elsewhere, I know it's a long slog, but we've had several people from the UK come in the past. Anyway, it's a good time. It's a really good time, and I highly advise anybody that can make it. You know, if you're somewhere here in the contiguous 48, or even better, just in the Great Lakes area, come on up, because it's a lot of fun. There will be a registration fee. I've kind of set that in. It's going to be $125 because, you know, in the past I've capped it at 100, but it's just getting a little tougher to do stuff that way. I've been checking into my pricings on stuff, and things are going up, and you know, some of the rentals that I'm going to do, just depending on how many people come, how much. Usually, basically, it's an event that I put the money back into it. So I'll hire somebody that, you know, a larger name in photography to come and be with us. That hasn't happened this year just because of the travel issue, but I'm not against hiring someone. I just haven't figured that out yet. But anyway, it's June 24th to 26th. The 25th, which is the Saturday, is going to be, I'm turning it into basically a local print fair or an art fair, I'm hoping. I'm talking to the locals. Everybody locally is really into it. I've rented out the little town, the town center and the town hall, which are very close together. They're real old buildings. One used to be a one-room schoolhouse. We'll have those buildings for some presentations. We'll also have those buildings for our print viewing that we'll have on the Saturday. Everybody that comes will be afforded a table to show their work, and if they want to be part of it, sell their work, whatever. This year I'm going to be inviting the general public as well. I'm going to be setting up posters. I'm going to be making some newspaper ads. What I'm trying to do is involve the local community in it so that we have more people looking at what we're doing than just us. I mean, it's been fun for the last 15 years sharing each other's work every year, and it always grows, and everybody's getting better, and the portfolios look better. But, you know, I mean, I think it would be fun to share it with the general community. So anyway, you can sell your work if you want. I'm going to invite some local vendors to, you know, maybe a food truck. I've talked to some of the local businesses about being down with it, and they're in on it too. We're going to do at least one cookout. Will be part of it. It'll be a good time. So anyway, go to photostockfest.com. You can pre-register there. I'm working on the website right now to get a lot more information in there. But, you know, there's an about, and you can read about the history and stuff. It's just not in a great format yet because I'm upgrading it. And in doing that, I found out, I've been running my server that I run for other photographers as well. I've been running it for nearly 20 years, the one server, which is nuts. So it's way outdated, and I've been trying to upgrade some of my software in there and some of my, you know, my banking software in there for accepting credit cards, and it just won't accept the upgrades anymore because I'm so far behind. So I'm in the process of upgrading that server and having it migrated over, but it's taking a little bit of time. So bear with me on that. You know, the actual registration might go back a little further, but if you do pre-register, you're going to find out when the actual registration date is. Let's see. Yeah, I'm glad, Paul. Yeah, here's another thing, Paul, that you can, that's good. If you're on Facebook, go on to look up the Digital Negative group on Facebook. And Richard Boatwell frequents there quite often, as do a lot of us. And start studying through there, or even pose your question. Shh, Curtis. Everybody's very friendly there, so even if the question's been asked a million times, people will be happy to answer. You can also look through there and see what other people's experiences have been. Lately, I haven't been following along so well because I've just been, there's just been so much going on that I haven't really followed along. But I know that before I shelled out my money to buy the printer, I was going to do a little bit more research. And again, I know that it's been working fine for people, so no fears there. We were really scared that it wasn't going to work at all, and that the end of everything was going to be the 800 series, and that was going to be, we were going to have to start finding out different ways for digital negatives. Yeah, cool. Oh, the other thing is it just blew out of my head because I'm thinking about the Photostock thing first. Photostock. Definitely sign up for it. Anybody got any suggestions for it? Also, you can email me through my website, billschwab.com. Just go to the contact form and write to me. If you have any suggestions of people you'd like to see there, or if you know somebody, if any of you have a personal connection that's some well-known person. I mean, we've had some pretty cool people in the past. Shelby Lee Adams has come. I've had Andrew Moore. We've had Ted Orland. We've had A.D. Coleman. I know I'm forgetting people, but anyway, it's been fun and a good time. And I'd like to bring somebody like that in again. Larry Fink was supposed to come 2 years ago, but when we had to shut it all down. I should contact Larry and see if he'd like to do it again, but Larry was not so much into traveling, and I haven't seen a lot from him lately, Unfortunately, a lot of the people I'd like to bring along, we're all getting older, and they're getting into their 80s now, so it's a little tough. A couple years ago, I was going to get Jerry Uelsman to come, but he would have come, but he just didn't want to come because he just didn't want to go because he's in his 80s and he wanted first class ticket. It was going to cost like 10 grand to bring him, and I just couldn't pull that off. So anyway, let's see here. There was something else I was thinking of that I was going to say, and let me think if I can figure it out before I do. I'll just write it down and save it for next week. Yeah, this has been fun. Been on an hour again. You guys, I really appreciate this. Please tell a friend, the more the merrier. And as you can see, I love answering questions. And if I can't answer them, I like seeking out the answer myself. And thanks to you that have helped out with other people and suggestions and things like that. There's really good suggestions on trying to get rid of the pizza wheel issue. I mean, back in the day, there were people online that would sell, like for the 1280 and things, they would sell little extra aftermarket things that you could buy that would go in and pry up the pizza wheels, but you just can't get into anything on the new ones, and it's hard to do. Yeah, thank you, Daryl. Thanks to all of you. I really appreciate this. This is a lot of fun, and so think about it. Think about Photostock. I'm going to be listing another workshop here pretty soon. I'm kind of starting to feel like doing another gum over workshop. I'm really enamored with the process lately. I know I've been doing it a long time, but I'm kind of in my mind thinking about working on several Iceland portfolios because some of you might know I've photographed in Iceland over the last 20 years pretty extensively. I mean, way extensively, almost too much. And I've got a lot of work, and I've been thinking about splitting it up into like 4 different portfolios. And I've started to print some of it in the gum over process, and oh man, it's just, some of them I can do some really nice stuff with. So anyway, I'm thinking about that. Thinking about the NFTs. I'll keep you up on that as well. Watch for a new video, not in the next week, on the digital negative thing, on the newer version of, oh, I know what I was going to tell you, Daryl, and everybody else about the digital negative part. We're worried about the Epson because we were worried about losing it. Richard Boatwell, in his last iteration of the program that he wrote, it allows you to build an ACV file or a Photoshop curve that you can apply. So what you do, and I haven't worked it out yet, but I'm going to work on this in another video, is you work out a curve that you apply after you've worked out your image like we do now. You work out the image so it looks really nice, and then you invert it. Well, what you do with this one is you work out the image the way you like it, and then you apply the curve that you've built through Richard's program as an ACV curve in Photoshop. Now, of course, it makes your image look a little bit different, but it prints it out in the way that it should be printed out for your digital negative, theoretically. And this way, you would not necessarily need to use an Epson printer, and you would not necessarily need to use QTR. So this is another thing that's a possibility out there as well that might, you know, if we ever did lose the Epson line of printers as a way to print with QTR, there's other ways that have been being developed to build your curve in an easier way than the old way that we used to do. Christy K, hey, how are you doing? First visit, hello from Seattle. Nice to see you, Christy. Thank you for coming in. Gum, yes, please. Yeah, okay, well, hey, Christy, so you can catch up back, you know, the video will be posted later about what we've been talking about. I'm just kind of wrapping up here, but there's a video that I just created on gum over platinum. If you go through my playlist, there's a new playlist with that. It has 4 videos. One of them takes you from the beginning to end, and then the other one is 3 addendums that help you with. Now, it's not specifically just the gum bichromate process, but it is the gum over platinum, and it helps you with gum bichromate. And to add more to this is that I am in the future going to work on a video that's just specifically gum. And I'm also experimenting with tricolor gum. So, you know, I only know enough to be dangerous right now, and I might take a workshop. I'm thinking about going up to Minnesota. He doesn't know this yet, but I was going to contact Keith Taylor about maybe going up there and doing a one-on-one and having him teach me his way of doing it, because there's nobody makes them like him in this world, I don't think. But anyway. So yeah, I'll be working on more gum in the future. I love this stuff. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah, Canon printers, it could be nice. Yeah, it would be good. And I don't know other people that have tried it yet, and I keep threatening that I'm going to try it, but you know, I'm like a pinball. You know, I bounce all over the place, and I really have to set aside some time to just do that part of the process, create a curve in Photoshop, and actually see if it works before I start telling everybody that it does. Yeah. Epson hosed the piezography people, so don't think they won't do it. No, I know, Jerry. I understand completely. See, the thing about it is, though, that I'm a little bit now. Okay, so there's this little symposium that we're going to be doing online here. I'm just going to be part of it, coming up on May 17th at 3 o'clock p.m. Central Time is when that one begins. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm a moderator where I'm talking to 3 people that were the beta testers for the HBR paper, and this is for Hahnemühle. But anyway, what was Chris Anderson in there? She told me that she or somebody, I have to go ask her about this. She either had the ear, or somebody in our realm had the ear of Epson now, of an Epson employee, and they're starting to become aware of how we're using this and how important it is to us to be able to make these digital negatives. And it's starting to become, I guess, it's starting to become a market share that they think they might want to look at. So I'm not sure if they're going to shut us out on that part of it, Jerry, is what I mean. You know, maybe it's just wishful thinking. The problem being with piezography and John Cohn's stuff, and also MIS inks, you know, I used to work with them developing black and white inks as well, much like piezography. But they actually threaten Epson, because, you know, Epson, you buy these printers and, you know, it's not that expensive for the technology that goes in there, but they're making their money off the ink, right? So if they've got other people, they're making this piece of technology that other people are creating ink for that they're not making money off. I mean, it's a drag, but I can understand their point of view, you know. So I can understand them making that more proprietary. I'm just hoping that they realize in the digital negative market that we're using Epson's inks to create them. And I just really like them to become more of a, you know, more of a partner with us, much like Hahnemühle did. You know, I mean, Hahnemühle made that paper, which is just incredible, you know what I mean? Now, of course, they resourced a base paper that they had done before, but they took us into account because they knew that they had the market share. And then they reached out to us and they sponsored certain ones of us that helped to influence, and, you know, it's a going thing now, you know what I mean? And same thing could happen with Epson, so I'm really hoping that will happen. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's crazy how expensive it is. There's a guy named Bob as well that I used to work with at MIS Inks. They were here in Michigan. And at the time I had a large format printer, and I agreed to become a beta tester for this process, which was much like piezography. And it was great. I worked with Paul Rourke out in California, who was really instrumental in building the curves that we were using. I was making the prints and making the readings with the sensitometer, sending them out to Paul. Paul was reconfiguring curves and reconfiguring they were reconfiguring the inks as we were making them. It was amazing. Like every week I'd get a whole new package of inks and I'd have to, in purge fluid, I'd have to purge out the inks. It was a lot of stuff, but yeah, it's an expensive liquid, believe me. And the thing about it is that, that's why these ink companies came up on the side, because, it can be made relatively cheaply. Problem being is a lot of the knowledge that went into making these aftermarket inks had to be done through trial and error. So it had to do with the filtering and how large the micro pieces of dye were and everything, and it made a big difference. So I don't know any of you that tried these other inks, but there were clogging issues that were a really big deal. Now I'm not sure if they still have that problem with the cone inks, but that was a huge deal, and you had to keep that printer working. Otherwise, you were going to clog up, and even if you kept it working, it clogged up. So anyway, yeah, the most expensive liquid on the planet. And I suppose it gets to be like that because of the technology that goes into it, the microfiltering and things like that. Because I've never had a problem with my Epson inks clogging up. I mean, I'm not what Cone does, and especially what they've done with their new burner, their new plate burner and stuff, is great stuff. But I've been there to the mountain and back, and I'm quite happy to just keep using Epson inks because it a lot less headaches in the long run. I know that people have the piezography stuff, and Jerry's done some beautiful stuff with it. It's a beautiful form of printing, but you just got to keep it working. Let's see here. Well, hey, yeah. You haven't had one clog with the piezo. That's really good. I know that there was somebody that was talking about it the other day that just let it sit for too long, and they just, any printer, you're gonna have to resurrect it through some purging. And, I recommend, like on the large format printers, is putting a little tray with a sponge in there and put water in the sponge and just put that tray inside, just let it humidify. That, especially up here in the dry, it keeps, I got this 9800 here that I've been running for, I don't know how long now, and knock on wood, it's working fine. It doesn't take too much to resurrect it when I have to. Good, yeah. So the only problem I could see with the piezography and Epson is the fact that it's aftermarket inks, and they're kind of having they have issues with that. So, now I suppose if they charged us $10,000 for a printer, we could run any ink we wanted to in it. But I don't know. We'll see where this all goes. It's a strange thing that we do, because I've been, and a lot of us have been paranoid since they started, the whole digital market. Is like things get taken away from us. You start to learn how to do something really well, and then the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. And it started with our materials, with analog stuff, but that's kind of balanced off now. But still, it's tough. I kind of base everything I do on a digital negative now, practically. And if we became unable to make them anymore, it would be pretty distressing. Let's just say that. So anyway, all right. Well, hey, it's been really good to hang with all of you today. I'm going to sign off here. We've actually gone a little bit over time. We've had some really good stuff today. I really appreciate it. My dog's here. This is Curtis. He's getting pretty antsy. I think he wants to go outside. So anyway, yeah, good talking to y'all. I'll be back here next Sunday at 1 o'clock again, hopefully more thawed out and more warm. It's just cold out. Damn, it's almost April. I'm cold. So, I'll be on next week. Anybody wants to write me personally, something you want me to talk about next week, I'll try to come up with some sort of a thing. Now that more people are coming on, I'll try to come up with a little bit of a theme. I think a lot of it works just best if I just get questions from you and then I can ramble. As you know, I like to talk. Yeah, thanks. See you next week, Paul. It was a good time. See you all next week. Take care of yourselves. Have a good week. Bye-bye.